What's going on, Sugar Plums? Guys, I got a feral guide for you today. Talking through some Season 3 stuff. I'm going to go through pretty much everything for you that I can. And then I will have some follow-up videos, tips and tricks, dungeon reviews, all that kind of stuff. Those videos will also come. So if there's anything that you do want to particularly see from me or any particular questions that you have that you want me to try and answer, let me know in the comments of this video, and I'll do my best. I'll pop into stream. I'm stream on Kick, Twitch, YouTube, Psybear_TV, all that stuff. Now, I did sit down with Guilty, and I'll actually show you guys this video, but I did sit down with Guilty, a Feral Druid Theorycrafter, a couple days ago, and we had a good old proper chat about Feral Druid, and we spoke about 3 different sections. The state of Feral currently, the changes that or the things in Midnight that we're looking forward to or hoping to see, and then Feral best practice. Right, so that's the final section. There's a timestamp, rotation optimization, Feral best practice at about the 1 hour mark, and that's where I ask a Theorycrafter different scenario questions rotationally and like optimization stuff, and then we have a chat about what the what the Sims say and what the Theorycrafters say, and then in practicality things that I've been doing and where we agree and whatnot. So that's in this video here. It's just on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. So that's something to check maybe after this video as well. So I'll leave that with you guys. Right, so I'm going to rattle off a few of the really just simple basic stuff. Let's get into it. Our stats right now are Mastery and then Haste equivalent to Crit. Always Sim. Buy a Raidbots account. Get used to it, bub. That's the answer. In terms of things like Trinkets, Nether Prism is really good for Mythic Plus, and you just macro it into your Convoke, and you just send it on every cooldown window on CD, and you're fine. Now, Araz is also really good. That's from the Raid. That's better for Raid. Now, it does have the decaying effect, so you do need to be aware of that when you are using cooldowns in Raid, that you're not popping the Trinket and then delaying your like Berserk or your Convoke for any long period of time. So that's something to consider there. Obviously, there's all the normal ones. There's, you can grab a Sack Brood. You can grab the Feather from Lumathar. Is it a Feather? You know the one. That kind of stuff. I'm not going to get too into Trinkets, but that's kind of the deal there. In terms of crafting, if you don't have a mythic weapon by now, you should have one. So you should craft one. I've crafted braces and I've crafted belt because long term, those are just going to be the best options. And then I've crafted like a non-embellished ring at 720. And I think we potentially have another craft this week. So who knows? I'll probably either craft another ring or I'll craft like a necklace, or who cares. But that's the situation with like crafting, stats, trinkets, all those little piddly bits that, we can just get out of the way. So, in terms of how Feral's playing, it's the same as it has been, like all expansion, more or less. There are a few things that we're gonna chat about, and I'll chat a little bit about like talents, and then I'll get into rotation stuff. So, DOTC and Wildstalker in Raid are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but on every single boss right now in Raid, if you go on Warcraft logs, you can see a breakdown of DOTC, then Wildstalker, then DOTC, then Wildstalker, then you can compete on either right now on single target in AOE. DOTC is going to be a bit better in that burst situation, but I'm trying to think of where that, Araz is more bursty with like ads and stuff, but kind of whatever. I don't know how many cooldown windows you actually get during ad windows on Araz. I've only killed the boss once, actually. So you can play DOTC, you can play Wildstalker in Raid. Have at it. In terms of Mythic Plus, DOTC is just objectively better in pretty much all scenarios because A, you're tankier. B, you just do more bursts, like more AoE. Your overall will be bigger. And you can choose your priority target. So these are the big things mechanistically, I want to say. Somebody with a thesaurus can correct me in the comments on that one. But it's tankier you get to choose your priority target that you want to funnel. So like a boss, Big Mama, for example, in Floodgate or whatever, or like, you know, Araz in Raid, where you can choose like you're going to funnel onto the boss, right? From the inclusion of these other ads. Soulbinder might be another good example. And then it just does good damage. So that's something that Wildstalker can't really offer so much. Now, Wildstalker, I think personally, is better on single target in a Mythic Plus build. So this is the thing, and this is something that I spoke to Guilty about, and he was in agreement. So I'm not crazy. But Wildstalker, I've been playing a lot of it this season, actually, and I find that I think it's better in streets, and I think it's better in potentially Dawnbreaker as well. And then anything else? Streets, Dawnbreaker. That's probably it, really. Maybe, I want to say maybe Arakara. Potentially Arakara as well. I'm still playing around with it a little bit, but yeah, definitely in streets. Because, like, this is the thing, like, DOTC is technically better in single target and technically better in AOE, but when you do a Mythic Plus talent build, suddenly Wildstalker gets more single target. And this is something that I've been looking at a lot. You can see that I've got the enemy damage taken details meter here because I'm looking at it constantly in Mythic Plus. Like, I'm constantly looking at where I'm ranking up in boss damage and prio damage and stuff like that. So that's the situation there. In terms of how some of these builds look, so this is like a DOTC single target build. So you're actually taking Coil to Spring. And that's because you're potentially overcapping on combo points at times and then getting larger bites and ravages and stuff like that because of how we're playing around some things, which we'll talk about shortly. So you are grabbing Coil to Spring. This has been a dead talent for a long time. So, hey, nice to see you in the fray, buddy. You are grabbing normal stuff here in the middle. That's all pretty normal for DOTC. And then down at the bottom, obviously grabbing Saberjaws. No longer needing Apex because it's not got a tier set attached to it, forcing us to take it on single target. And then you just grab the normal things. CI, like no Circle of Life and Death, is an interesting one. I don't want to speak as to why that might be. It could, I mean, it's Sims and math and whatever. And who knows? Maybe it's like you get fewer bites in and you just want maximum bites with DOTC, like, that's it. You want maximum bites and Ravages, more specifically. So that's like the single target DOTC build. Single target Wildstalker build looks like this. So you're not running Cold to Spring. You can go double Tireless. Everything else looks pretty normal in the middle. You're grabbing Lunar Inspiration, though. And I'm just thinking, with DOTC, we're taking Brutal Slash, aren't we? Yeah. So we're grabbing Brutal Slash with DOTC, but with Wildstalker, you can drop that and grab Lunar Inspiration. You could, in theory, drop like Moment of Clarity and pick up Brutal Slash if you want to. Like, I don't really see a massive problem with that, but generally this is what people are playing. And then going, so some people go double Swarm, some people go one Swarm, one CI. It's boss to boss, depends on that. Lumathar is a good example where I think people are going double Swarm, but like Plexus Sentinel, people are going one Swarm. So that's the situation there. You're not going double Saberjaws. You're just not really, I guess you're just not relying as much on where you're biting, but, I mean, to be honest, I kind of want to mess around with that a little bit, but, okay, that's fine. So that's the situation with, like, Wildstalker versus DOTC on single target. In terms of in Mythic Plus, yeah, here we go. So in terms of Mythic Plus, this is what I'm playing with Wildstalker, so Double Clawed Rake, Primal Wrath. I'm running Tireless Energy because if you run Merciless here, like, you just don't have enough energy. So I'm running Tireless Energy there. I could also opt... Yeah, that's that. Then middle of the tree, everything's super normal. You grab a Rampant Ferocity for AoE, Double Swarm, like, normal stuff. I'm pretty sure DOTC is, like, the same exact build, actually. The only thing that changes is you grab Merciless Claws and you grab DOTC, obviously. But everything else is, like, the same. Now, in terms of Mythic Plus, you have some freedom of choice. You can go, you can get rid of Swarm, and you can just, like, go double CI. I wouldn't generally recommend Saberjaws, because it just doesn't... Again, you can go check out my chat with Guilty. We literally talk about Saberjaws and the descriptor on it, and what it is actually affecting and what it isn't. I personally don't think Saberjaws gets much value in Mythic Plus. You could run it in, say, Arakara. Like, Arakara, if you actually look at it, is a really funny dungeon, because you'd think, oh, it's like very AoE heavy, you've got tons of these big AoE pulls. There's so many dog shit mobs in Arakara that mean nothing to you. And then there are just like, you know, there's a mini-boss, mini-boss, actual boss. This thing, the hulking blood gods, not everybody knows this, but this guy, oh, it's not there for some reason. This guy reduces the damage the mobs around him take. I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. I'm just worrying now that that's no longer a thing, but I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. It was when Arakara was first in the pool, where these hulks are reducing things around them, the damage that they're taking. So you need the hulk dead, and then you can actually AoE everything else effectively. And you've got like 3 of these hulks. Then you've got boss. Then you've got like these big mini bosses or mini mobs, mini boss mobs, these overseers, and then it's boss. So they're actually just like mainly just a bunch of fluff, and then just like single target, single target, single target. So this is where I think something like Saberjaws over maybe double CI could actually be really good in an Arakara, where it is actually just pretty much single target as well. And arguably, I mean, the thing is, I say you could drop Swarm in something like Arakara, because again, it's just jumping on these shitty mobs that you don't care about, rather than like mobs you actually do care about. But again, like, I go and test it, and actually, I just do way more overall by running Adaptive Swarm. So it really depends. It also depends on key level. Like, you can go double CI if you're in lower level keys. So if you're doing like a +8, even a +10 right now, people are at 759 level running +10s. So people outgear everything. They're smashing through mobs. You don't have time to ramp and everything. So you can just go double CI and do some good burst. Now the Chinese are playing Ancient Chinese Tech. They are playing Incon, not Convoke in keys. And I wish I had an example of this. Maybe I can find one while I'm chatting to you guys, actually. But they are running Incon in some keys rather than Convoke. So, yeah, big. Running Incon. So, let me do this. Running Incon, double Swarm, no CR. Yeah, standard stuff. Everything fully standard, just Incon. Now, the reason why, I will get into very soon when we talk about rotations. But I want to start playing more with Incon, because I think there's some value there too. So, I'm going to mainly talk about, if you're playing Wildstalker in Raid, it pretty much plays itself. It's pretty traditional. If you're playing DOTC, it is a little bit different. In Raid, you're just biting as much as you possibly can. That's what you're focusing on. So like, it's a bit hard to make a guide when you're talking about various different scenarios. But if I was in like a Raid single target build, I'm just trying to bite as much as I can. I am not really too concerned about, like, there was a thing maybe like last season where you would snapshot your rip as a big priority, even maybe slightly outside of the pandemic window, just to guarantee the Tiger Fury and get that big meaty rip. Whereas like, you're absolutely not doing that now. You are biting, just more bites, more Ravage, more of that. Rip is, who cares about that, you know? So that's the situation there. In terms of in like Mythic Plus, so there's a funny thing right now. There's a funny thing, and it all comes down to this talent, Claw Rampage. So, the way that Claw Rampage works is that during your Berserk or Incon, Shred, Brutal Slash, and Thrash have a 25% chance to make your next Ferocious Bite become Ravage. Your Ravage is normally procced by auto attacks, which is RNG. Don't you love it? Nothing that you do matters. You're irrelevant. A monkey could proc a Ravage, bud. Okay? However, during Claw Rampage, that's when you get to be the hero. So, the way that this works is that Brutal Slash and Thrash have a 25% chance per mob they hit to proc a Ravage. Which means, if you have a large enough mob count, it's theoretically 100% chance of proccing a Ravage. So if I just show you really quick, like, if I press Berserk, and then I Brutal Slash, there's a Ravage, 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 and there's a Thrash, and there's a Ravage, and there's a Brutal Slash, and there's a Ravage, and there's a Thrash, and there's a Ravage. Look at all those Ravage. Very important as well to know is you can actually see, is it called Preparing to Strike? Is it called? Yes, Preparing to Strike. So the tier set, so let's just talk about the tier set a little bit. So Ravage increases your haste by 10%, crit by 10%, and the damage your bleeds deal by 30% for 5 seconds. That's pretty mega. The 4 set, Ravage has a 40% chance to make you ravage your target again 4 seconds later at 100% of the initial power. The way you can track this, if you're interested, is go into details, go into auras, and then hover over Preparing to Strike. That is how many 40% Ravage procs you got. Now, in that little instance right there, I got 2 bonus Ravage. So on top of getting guaranteed Ravage, like, I just did 10 million burst on those mobs with no Convoke and literally no Blood Talons, just pressing Brutal Slash Ravage, Brutal Slash Ravage. I just did, like, 11 mil burst, okay? A monkey could do it. Are you a monkey? Frenzied Assault also coming up big. But, yeah, a lot of Ravage damage coming from that. So that is kind of like, that's your mission. That is what you were put on this earth to do. So that's kind of how Feral is playing at the minute. Now, let me pull things back a little bit and talk about some of the, perhaps the basics. So, Feral is, like I say, playing the way that it has this whole expansion. You are trying to generate your Blood Talons, which is this talent right here. You can go and have a read. But you're trying to generate 3 different combo, or use 3 different combo generators to proc your Blood Talons. So, Rake, Thrash, Brutal Slash, whether it be an AOE or single target, that is what you're doing. I now have my Blood Talons. I can Primal Wrath. Now, I am literally just like Rake spreading, I am Brutal Slashing, whatever, and just fishing for Apex Bites. I'm fishing for Ravages. I'm maintaining my Primal Wrath on mobs, so my AoE rip bleed. I am not just like spam rake spreading. There are times in your rotation, generally, the times when that will be the case where you can rake spread a bit is when you don't have an Apex proc. Kind of this situation, like you're not in your cooldown window, you've not got that many mobs, and so you're not getting that many Apex procs. You don't have like just insane energy gain because you are like not that many mobs. You're not getting that many Apex procs, etc. And you are just you're just like rake spreading. You'll generally have like 1 Blood Talons left because you've probably used 1 Blood Talons on a Bite, 1 Blood Talons on a Primal Wrath, and then you've got 1 remainder, and your Primal Wrath is healthy. You don't have an Apex proc, so you can start spreading Rake a little bit, because you don't need to regenerate Blood Talons for a little bit, so you can send some Rakes and, like, spread it around. But Rake spreading is not super high on your priority. It's, like, the last thing that you're trying to do in terms of maintenance things. But you can see, like, I'm generally just going around, like, making sure that I've got Thrash on every mob, making sure I've got Primal Wrath on every mob. So, some people ask me, oh, are we just Primal Wrathing in AoE? You just blanket Primal Wrathing? No, we don't have the Tear Open Wound talent anymore. So that's something that we did in Dragonflight, but they got rid of that. And they instead retained Rampant Ferocity, which is where your bite will hit everything that has your rip on it. So the main thing is that you're trying to maintain your Primal Wrath rips on everything so that then you can proc an Apex bite, which is a free bite, When you get this free bite, it can be used at any number of combo points, any amount of energy, doesn't matter. And you are sending that, and it's going to AoE everything. So that's where, if I show you Rampant Ferocity right here, ignore this because this is like mixed in with a flippin' Lumathor Heroic. So ignore the damage that it's doing. This is, you know, this is not true to what it would look like in an actual dungeon. But you can see that I'm just like AoEing with Rampant Ferocity here with the bites. I mean, let me bring up this. This is probably better. So you can see Rampant Ferocity doing quite a bit of my damage there. It's just AoE biting. And that's kind of the mission there. So like in AoE and stuff, you're just like generating your Blood Talons, maintaining your Primal Wrath, using free bites when you can. If your Primal Wrath is up, then send the bite. If you have 5 combo points and you have over 50 energy, send bites. If you get in a situation, so this is again something that me and Guilty spoke about, you can go watch that episode, but if you're in a situation where you have a Ravage, your Primal Wrath has like 2 seconds remaining, you have a Ravage ready to go, you're at 5 combo points, what do? Do you re-Primal Wrath or do you send the Ravage? Now traditionally, I've always said Primal Wrath, because there's a good chance that you're going to get those Primal Wraths are going to proc an Apex, which is going to give you that free Ravage anyway, so you come out winning. But forget that, because right now, the most important thing of anything with the OTC is that you just get as many Ravages as possible. So if you have a Ravage, send it. Because if you don't, there's a chance you could override it. And then you've missed a whole Ravage. And right now, because of the tier set, you haven't just missed 1 Ravage, there's a near 50% chance that you've missed 2 Ravages. So that's super important, because then you're also missing the 30% bleed increase for 5 seconds and the 10% stat gain. So like, not ravaging is bad. Ravage as much as you can, and then this is like a nice little trick, is like, let's say I've just sent a Ravage, I have 0 combo points, I have no Blood Talons, whatever. I can send a Brutal Slash, and then I can Primal Wrath. And it gives me a few seconds just to build up 5 combo points and then send a proper Primal Wrath. But in that time, I haven't really lost much ripped up time, and I've sent that Ravage and guaranteed that I'm not gonna overcap on one, which is super important. So another little tip with Primal, like with finishers, is you always want to use Bite at 5 combo points. Ravage, Bite, always at 5 combo points, unless it's a freebie. You can send it whenever. But Primal Wrath, there's nothing to stop you from just doing a 2 combo point Primal Wrath. Doesn't matter. It's exactly the same as a 5 combo point. It's just the difference is the duration that it lasts. But it doesn't matter. You can press it. And then it just keeps everything flowing. So that's your general how you're doing things. Another little tip is like Thrash is a universal duration on every mob. So if I go Thrash now, every single mob here is going to have the same exact duration. If I Primal Wrath, every single mob is going to have the exact same 9-second duration, right? So those are universal bleeds in terms of their duration. Rake is going to be more finicky, because Rake is going to hit 2 mobs, so every single mob is going to be at a different point in time on its duration. So Rake is specifically the bleed that you have to spend more time mentally tracking. Whereas like Thrash, you can just look at any one mob, and you know that everything else is going to be the same. Same with Primal Wrath. So that takes out a little bit of the mental load for you when you are trying to do these things. Now, in terms of cooldown windows, I wanted to show you this. So this is how your cooldown window is like working with DOTC. So I'm going to go into combat here. Now, a general rule of thumb is if you can leave combat with 5 combo points or as close to 5 as possible, and already having Blood Talons, then you can go into a new set of combat and immediately you are doing damage. If you consume your 5 combo points on 2 mobs that have 3% HP, you didn't really gain much damage on the overall because you've killed 2 mobs with no health. But what you've lost is the fresh pack of 10 mobs immediately having Primal Wrath on them. So that's a really, math, bad trade. Good, many mob with Primal Wrath, good. 2 mob, no health, bite, bad. Math. So I'm going to go into combat here with 5 combo points. And then just watch the way that I'm playing around the cooldown window, okay? Now, this is specifically an AoE because, again, like I say, this Claw Rampage talent. So if I go into this, so I'm going to Rake, and you can see this is my abilities cast here, so you can look. I'm going to Rake, I'm then going to Tiger Fury, Berserk, Primal Wrath. And then I'm going to Brutal Slash once, and I had a Ravage proc, so I sent it. And then I Convoke, right? My Trinket is macroed into my Convoke, not my Berserk, as I mentioned, because of the Araz situation, the Araz Trinket. And then I leave Convoke. Now, every Brutal Slash I now do is, in this many mobs, is pretty much guaranteed to be a Ravage. Very high likelihood. Now, my Primal Wrath is also at 2 seconds remaining. So, and I have 2 Blood Talons. So, I can leave Convoke, Primal Wrath, so I don't lose rip-up time on anything. Then I'm going to Brutal Slash to guarantee a Ravage proc. I get the Ravage. Then I Brutal Slash again. I had to Soothe because, you know, utility. I'm in my cooldown window. I'm still being ethical, okay? That's why I'm lowest on the DPS, because I'm ethical, all right? I had to send a lot of Dispels in this key, I'll have you know. So I Brutal Slash again. Ravage. Brutal Slash. Didn't get a proc. Unlucky. But that's the gameplay loop when you're in your cooldown window. I'll go back again. So you Rake from stealth. Then you Primal Wrath. Get your bleeds up. Then you can like Berserk, Tiger Fury, Convoke. I mean, well, you would Tiger Fury, then Primal Wrath. Then you can Berserk, Convoke. Okay? I'm gonna save you a global on the Berserk. And then you are Brutal Slash Ravage, Brutal Slash Ravage, Brutal Slash Ravage, Brutal Slash Ravage, Brutal Slash Ravage. This is specifically why some Chinese players are running Incon. As far as I am concerned, is because Incon gives you an extra 5 seconds of Berserk, or, you know, of that window. So you get an extra 5 seconds where Claw Rampage is giving you guaranteed Ravages, which will amount to 2 or 3 additional Ravages. On top of that, you're not losing 4 seconds by Convoking, so you actually regain those 4 seconds there. So there's like 9 additional, let's just call it 10 seconds additional in Incon, where you are just Ravage, 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 Ravage. Now, I'll probably do a video on that, so you guys can like check that out. That will mean that you will do more overall damage, but you will do less single target, because Convoke is really good for our single target, and on single target, Incon doesn't give you shit, because you are now confined to a 25% chance of getting Ravage, because you're on single target, not AoE. Now, something that's really interesting that I'm looking at as well is, and let me get to the boss, something that's interesting that I'm looking at is this boss here. Perfect. So I'm considering in situations as well like this, like traditionally for us as Feral, we would want to not send cooldowns during like shitty pad ads because it's going to reduce the amount of single target that we're going to do. So ideally, I'd actually wait for these ads to die and then I'd send my cooldown window, because all of that Convoke is going fully on the boss, which is going to mean instead of me moonfiring an ad, that moonfire has now been reclaimed as a potential bite or a big shred, which can be pumping the boss instead of hitting some shitty ad that was going to die in 2 seconds anyway, right? However, because of this Claw Rampage talent and this sort of guaranteed Ravage, maybe you actually want to hold cooldowns not too long, like you're not going to sit on them for like a minute, but like hold cooldowns for 10-20 seconds, say on this boss, say on first boss of Ecodome, etc., where you can actually use the ads to guarantee Ravage procs, and then you're sending more Ravage procs into the boss, which is giving you more potential free Ravage, or like, you know, bonus Ravage procs. You're getting the extra bleed damage, getting the extra stat gain, all that kind of stuff. If you actually look at your overall as well in a key, it's like 4 billion rip damage. Because every time that you're sending that Ravage, you're getting 30% increased damage on your Primal Wrath, and that's actually stacking with Blood Talons. So if you have a Tiger Fury, Blood Talons, Primal Wrath, and then you're just mega sending Ravages, like you're just, I mean, obviously it's not going to stack on the 5-second increase bleed damage, but you're just going to make sure that there's no downtime in that. And you're just getting tons of bleed damage there. So that's really cool. That's really interesting. This has been more of like an in-depth coverage of Feral stuff right now. Hopefully this has been a helpful like overview. If you're still a bit more confused on some of the basics of Feral and you've been watching this video like, what the hell is this guy even talking about? Let me know. This has been more of just sort of like bleh kind of guide. Just chock full of good stuff. But if there's things that you want to know specifically, if you want to know, like, I'll do a separate Wildstalker video. I'll do a separate, like, maybe raid boss video or something like that, right? So if you want to see how to play around those scenarios, I will get that out for you. Let me know in the comments and everything. Come follow me on Twitch. Come subscribe to my Twitch channel, because I don't have enough subscribers right now, and I'm going to have to go get a job at McDonald's. So, the only way I can keep making this content is if you guys come and subscribe to me on Twitch, or, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of it, basically. Cool! That's everything from me, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Go check out that video with me and, Guilty. Bye-bye.